Hi, I'm Kim Blickenstaff, and I'm the CEO of Tandem Diabetes Care. Well, that's an interesting question because when we started the company, we did extensive market research on the current products that are out there in the market. And in this market, it is dominated by one major player. So we predominantly interviewed those people to find out what the unmet needs are. And the number one unmet need was to make it not look like a medical device. And that may seem like a vanity issue, but the current pumps look like they're hospital-based infusion pumps, and they were developed back in the 80s and 90s, and have toggle buttons and a little screen, and they look very much like a medical device. It really highlights that you're using a pump. And when you take that out during meal times, people ask you questions, and it's very disturbing. And people told us they wanted a consumer-looking device. So we set out to make a device that was smaller and slimmer and looked frankly like an iPhone, to take away that stigma of using a medical device. And people love our device simply because of its look. And the second unmet medical need was really to make the pump easy to use. These pumps that were designed in the 90s are very complex, and you have to enter a lot of numbers in order to control your blood glucose. There are basal dosing and bolus dosing, as we call them, mealtime and between mealtime exercises that you have to go through in order to set your pump up. And with these toggle buttons, it's not intuitive, it's very hard to learn. The training time is very lengthy, and it's just a lot of work for the patients to use. So with our technology, we were able to put the first touchscreen onto an insulin pump, and we spent thousands of hours in human factors study to design an interface that's intuitive to use. By that I mean, once you've done one of the functions, it actually teaches you to use the other functions. And very much like your iPhone, you don't need a manual. You could learn to use it with a minimum amount of training. You retain that ability to use those functions. There's many advanced functions that you need to use in order to get the top quality of care that you can from a pump. And we found that our pump ranks as the easiest to train and the easiest to learn in independent studies that have been done on our T-Slim insulin pump. The gatekeeper is the physician and his right-hand person, which is a certified diabetes educator. This is either a nurse or a dietitian who has been specially trained in care of patients with diabetes. And so those are really the gatekeepers. So we have assembled a sales force that we have financed through our IPO. We expanded it to 60 people, and we have 60 territories, and we have a salesperson, and we also have a certified diabetes educator who is a trainer who can speak to that educator in the physician's office as a salesperson can speak to the physician. So those are the two gatekeepers, and we have, as I said, 60 people across the country. We've expanded that from 36 back about a year and a half ago or so, and we have that direct effort of calling on these offices in order to get to the patient. But we do see a lot of patient pull-through from social media, from word of mouth, from magazines and various media that we advertise in. So we do get a lot of consumer pull-through because that consumer look of the device really attracts patients the first time they see the device. We're focusing primarily on those endocrinologists that are prescribing insulin and have those pump patients in their practice, where many of these other large companies are focusing on the general practitioners with insulin pens and needle-administered insulin. So that's not a very good fit, but the Dexcom question is a good one because there is crossover. About 25% of our pump users are using Dexcom, so we do quite a bit of co-calling with Dexcom because our products appeal, greatly to that type 1 market where we have the highly compliant patients that want to use an insulin pump and also want to use that CGM because CGM is a very, very helpful tool in controlling blood glucose levels. Well, we have been a part of some of those studies. Ed Damiano, who is out at Boston University, has been using glucagon in conjunction with insulin. So he's been sort of pasting together two pumps along with the CGM in order to have automated delivery of glucagon as a rescue drug and insulin as the obviously the drug that drives glucose levels down. So we've been a participant in that trial. We've also been participants in other trials where they're trying to modulate insulin only through algorithms that will automate to some extent the delivery of insulin. So we've been supportive of those trials. The modulation of insulin or the automation of insulin, that's probably closer to commercialization than is glucagon. Glucagon is not a stable drug, and there's a long way to go with the FDA. But we are working with those companies, with universities that have these algorithms, and that's part of our next generation product plan. Sure. We have a pipeline of products that we're developing, which really makes us sort of unique in the industry. We have our basic T-Slim product, which has been out and has a tremendous market potential ahead of us. It has a 300-unit cartridge, as does the other market-leading product in the marketplace. And there's a great need for a larger cartridge for more insulin for those patients that are higher users of insulin. And those include type 2 diabetics, as well as a portion of type 1 diabetics who are more insulin resistant. So we developed T-Flex, which is a product that has a 480-unit cartridge, and it is off to a very good start. We got that approved in the second quarter. In our first quarter of revenues, we did about 1.4 million. We placed about 375 of those units out there in the marketplace. And we have great expectations for that product in the second half of the year. So that was an approval that took place this year, FDA approval. The third product that's in the FDA pipeline is our integrated CGM product with Dexcom. That product will display the Dexcom CGM information on our touchscreen, and it will appeal to about the 25% of type 1 pumpers who are actually using an integrated CGM, are using CGM and pump separately right now. So that's a very important product for us. Also, that's a very important platform for us going forward. Our next initiatives is the automation of insulin delivery, basal delivery. We're studying several algorithms, and we're going in front of the FDA this year to look at basal insulin automation, so that when you're going high, when you're going low, you attenuate the insulin, you shut it off, all driven by that CGM from Dexcom. And also we're looking at a second piece of it, that when you go high, you turn insulin on in order to bring your insulin, your glucose levels down. So those are important new initiatives that we have. They're all dependent on our partnership with Dexcom. We have agreements for the Gen 4, their Gen 5, and their Gen 6, which will be rolled into our product line as we develop these automated insulin delivery modules that will go onto the T-Slim. Sure, our annual revenues last year were just shy of $50 million. We expect them to be $75 million this year. That's largely because we expanded our sales force, and we're seeing increasing productivity as they're able to penetrate their territories. We will add some additional salespeople, a small amount, probably late this year, early next year, to help us grow next year. But we see the portfolio of products that we have as being a real important growth story, because everybody else is a one-product company, and we'll have 3 products and be working on new projects in the automated insulin arena that will expand our product line in years to come and increase our revenues that way. So we are very much a growth story. We did an IPO, we did a follow-on financing, and our best guess is that we believe that there's scenarios that we can get to profitability under our current cash that we've raised. It all depends upon the productivity and the improvement in our gross margins as we ramp up and increase volume, increase our gross margins in our set business and our pump business. But we believe we're on a trajectory where we've built the infrastructure where we can continue to build our sales force around a growing product line and reach profitability. We have wide insurance coverage, so that's one of the good parts of the story, is that we're in a situation where there is wide payer coverage. There's also Medicare, Medi-Cal coverage. There are no initiatives to go to competitive bidding in this space, unlike the BGM space where it suffered cutbacks in the reimbursements amount. So we don't see any headwinds from the reimbursement side of the business. And that really is something that we work out. We do use distributors to a certain extent when we want to increase the amount of direct payer business that we have, and we have initiatives in that area that we're working on that also help the profitability of the business, and it is an important initiative for us. No, so far we have not had any talks with them. We're looking at mobile health. We certainly wanted to have apps that display onto phones. Our first app that we have that's available is a simulator of our t:slim user interface, so that users can try our pump without actually having to go into the physician's office and actually try to demo a pump. So they're able to download that app off the Apple Store and be able to use our pump without actually having to go to the physician's office. And we're looking at other initiatives in mobile health of downloading our data real time, so that it could be shared with other caregivers, family members, and so forth that are caring for the patient. So we are beginning to look in that direction and think there's a lot of interesting things on the horizon that we may be able to develop in the future.